get my thing in action. To be, to see, to feel, to live.
That's what's happening.
I put my heart in action. To run, to go, to get, to give.
You're what's happening.
Don't you know, they're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. Don't you know, they're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. While they're standing in the welfare lines, crying at the doorsteps of those armies of salvation, wasting time in the unemployment lines, sitting around waiting for a promotion.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Megan Kargher with the COTO Report, and I'm here today in Cambridge, England with Charlie Veitch of the Love Police. If you've not yet heard of the Love Police.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a message from Her Majesty's Institute for Brainwashing and Propaganda. Remain as terrified as you can. Please look up to your nearest CCTV camera so your face may be recorded. We are all suspects in the new state, scared of terrorism. The person standing next to you could be an Al-Qaeda terrorist. If you notice any suspicious activity, like people filming or people using megaphones, report them to the authorities immediately. Welcome to Her Majesty's Open Prison, London. ID cards must be worn at all times.
He's a filmmaker, he's an activist, and you know, some would say a comedian as well, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here today.
No, thanks, Megan. Really nice of you to come all the way up to Cambridge to see me.
It's really it's a pleasure for me. To, you know, I couldn't very well come to England without, you know, coming out and having a chat with you. So I'd like to start simply by asking you what was your motivation behind starting the Love Police and behind starting doing these filmmaking and this videos, and we'll proceed from there.
Yeah, I worked in finance for about 7 years in London and Edinburgh. I did a degree at Edinburgh University, which is a philosophy degree, and I always told myself that I would never work in an office, that I'd never be a corporate drone, and because of fear and kind of greed and kind of family pressures, the first job I got was for HSBC Bank, and my job was to sell very expensive loans to people in financial difficulty, which was evil in itself, and I'd have to go home every night and scrub very hard in the shower to wipe the evil grime off me. So I did that for a long time. I always knew something was wrong, but I didn't have any outlet or any idea of what I wanted to do. I had no idea about the alternative research community. I had no idea about quantum physics, about spirituality, about the reality behind the scenes. I'd never heard of David Icke. I'd never heard of Bill Hicks, or many other heroes which I'm so familiar with now. So I always had this rage and this kind of anxiety inside me of not knowing what I should be doing in my life, and I always knew it would be something to do with film or something to do with activism, and I fancy myself as a bit of a kind of urban modern day revolutionary, and there's no need to start killing anyone, because I've, from my own research and from all the work that everyone's doing online and around the world, that our enemy isn't ourselves. Our enemy is a force which comes from somewhere else, which kind of deprograms humans to be droids and makes them do other things. So I was motivated because 30,000 children die of preventable disease and starvation per day. We have governments lying and murdering and being complete assholes every day. I was motivated because I was working 10 hours a day in a job that I hated, that didn't inspire me creatively or emotionally in any way. And then, you know, the way the universe works, some things kind of propel you to do something, and the economy crashed, the fake economy, and I found myself on May the 1st, 2009, without a job. So I thought, that's it. Pick up a camera now, start filming things, put them on YouTube, see what happens. And here we are, 17 months later, it's the Love Police.
Fantastic, fantastic. And so you'd say that you say that your awakening was the point at which you lost the job then, and how was it that you came to become familiar then with let's say Bill Hicks to start with, because you bring so much comedy to what you do, and I think that there's a very therapeutic and very restorative way of dealing with some issues that simply make you want to scream or cry.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't hear about Bill Hicks until just after the American and British invasion of Iraq in 2003, and I was listening to Bill talking about George Bush Sr. and about Iraq having incredible weapons, incredible big weapons of mass destruction.
You know, he armed Iraq. I wondered about that too. You know, during the Persian Gulf War, those intelligence reports would come out. Iraq, incredible weapons, incredible weapons. How do you know that? Oh, well, we looked at the receipt. But as soon as that check clears, we're going in.
It kind of tied in so well with what was happening in 2003. Using comedy, as you say, it was Oscar Wilde, the English playwright, who said that if you're going to tell people the truth, you have to make it funny or they'll kill you. So I try and make things funny. And also I want to keep what I do fun, because I worked for many years. I worked at university and I don't ever want to work again. I don't think human beings need to work. I think careers and jobs are a kind of modern day slavery, really. And there are ways to kind of live free of the system, and I'm doing my best to try and do that now. And if I can inspire a few people or make people laugh, or just... The ultimate goal, Megan, is to try and wake people up, because I think the victory is a mental victory. As soon as you're aware of the bullshit that's happening, and as soon as you're aware that all these institutions are illusions, and much like in a virtual reality video game, you've got end-of-level baddies, you've got bosses, you've got bad guys in the video game, we've got bad guys in our video game, and the main thing to remember is that ultimately it is, as David Icke says, a virtual reality holographic universe. And I don't just parrot these ideas because I've read David Icke or met David Icke or spoken to David Icke. I speak these ideas because I've taken heroic doses of hallucinogenic substances like LSD and mushrooms and DMT and mescaline, and I've seen the illusion lifted, and I've used these divine substances to kind of expand my mind. But luckily, I've managed to bring some of those ideas from being in my state of enlightenment and nirvana into the physical world. And a lot of people ask me, they say, how can you be so brave to do what you do? You go out in the street, you interact with police, you get arrested. It's not scary. Like, when you're doing what's right, it's not scary at all, because what else are you going to do? Be a slave? Bend over and get butt-fucked by the system for not being your own self? Or stand up, say I'm a sovereign human being, my life has value, and go out there and do what you can. So I do what I can.
Yeah, I also find that that in a way it becomes very empowering. You know, you start with a bit of momentum, and the more you do it, the more it snowballs, and you know, hopefully eventually we can 100 monkey the thing, and get everybody in a state of consciousness. So ideally, you see yourself doing this? Do you see yourself at some point in the future maybe doing something like permaculture or something like that?
Forgive my ignorance. What's permaculture?
Oh, permaculture is a method of farming that mimics the way that natural forest systems work, so that you're not using any sorts of fertilizers. You're not really having to do a lot of weeding because you've got species that interrelate. But
I love weeding. Oh, you mean different kind of weeding?
Yeah,
Sorry,
different.
all right. Okay.
You've got species that interrelate, and so what you create is you create your own forest, but you're creating it instead of having maybe 20% edible species to something that's an 80% edible species food forest, so that when you're walking out of your own house, all you need to do to go shopping for the day is take your basket out, and if you're not familiar with it, there's some amazing stuff on permaculture. You should have a look, because it's, I think in a way it's taking something old and something new, and putting it together in a fashion that makes a lot of sense. We can take the technologies that human beings are capable of, and we can take the ideas from agrarian type societies, and we can combine these two ideas so that we've got, you know, a situation where we're using things like solar ovens and solar electricity and running, you know, our vehicles on things like, you know, used chip oil and growing everything that we need. You can grow enough, you know, to feed a family of 5 on an acre.
Yeah, you can see why this is all a massive threat to the kind of corporate state, because all of this, what you're talking about, takes power away from the corporate state. So as someone who is 100% against the corporate slave hierarchical state, then I 100% agree with you. And of course, permaculture is ticking all the right bells in my brain. And so yes, of course, I always rant about a return to a state of nature and my kind of almost sexual fascination with the Native Americans and everything they stood for. And I have dreams where I'm like walking through a street in London that eventually gets more and more natural and more back to nature, and then it starts turning into one of those hippie streets you find in Thailand where everything's made of bamboos and you've got the bar with everything being very natural, and all of a sudden it's jungle. And my most recent dream, I walked through the street with a bunch of other hippies, and suddenly it was like massive Brazilian rainforest, and I saw in the tree, and I always talk about the goddess, and then I saw the god. First of all, my goddess is my girlfriend. That's the kind of how I kind of rationalize all this. But in my dream, I saw this naked Amazonian woman kind of leaning back in the tree and just picking fruit from the tree. And then she kind of, as I kind of went, oh my god, there's a naked woman in the tree, she kind of turned around and she was like, nah. And it was so beautiful and natural. So yes, permaculture, let's do it. But we need to fight Codex Alimentarius. Now these new American laws saying that organic people need to get their stores raided by armed police because they might give someone healthy food that doesn't have pesticides and sterilizing agents in it. So
yeah, Bill H.R. 875 is what he's referring to right now.
Bill H.R. 875.
Yes.
Look it up.
It really very, very important. And yes, you're looking at a situation where they're trying to tell us that anything that hasn't been treated with fungicide is now illegal for sale. But the thing is, of course, that as soon as you begin to treat a plant with a fungicide, it no longer produces the natural sylvestrals, which means that you're no longer receiving your natural antifungals. Since cancer is a fungus.
Yeah, from Candida.
Yes.
And so, yeah, you see how it all interrelates into one big evil test for humanity, a test of freedom that we need to break through and keep constantly on guard. And David Icke calls it the reptilians. I call it the machine, but ultimately it's the exact same thing. It's that kind of dehumanizing binary machine coding of reality away from the fractal disorder of nature. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would say that at best, these people that are running, and this is at best, the people that are running the world currently can be described as psychopaths. You know, they don't get into power and try and do good. They get into power and they try and control. And you can see this. It goes very deep. So that, you know, any gentleman who's been given a flashlight and a radio and a fluorescent jacket thinks that he's got. Go on.
Yeah, oh my god, the fluorescent jacket and the radio, they turn into Jason Bourne and they're saving the world from all the filmmaker terrorists out there that might by accident film a CCTV camera, and then all of a sudden Al-Qaeda is blowing the shit out of everything. It's